The enhanced games were designed to answer a single question.
What if we didn't just accept evolution, but unleashed it?
Or to put it another way,
imagine an Olympics where everyone is on performance-enhancing drugs.
This billionaire-backed roid fest aimed to forge a new standard for human performance so that we could jettison clean living for scientific enhancement. All they needed to do to prove the concept was to break a few world records. And then in May 2026, the results came in.
It is not a world record.
Oh, just misses the world record.
Not going to break the record.
Fred Kerley, a clean athlete who won the men's 100-meter sprint without any doping at all, summed up the entire concept and failure of the enhanced games with this one off-the-cuff quote.
Man, they gotta do better than that. They need to train a little harder, get on that shit a little bit more, and go a little harder some more.
Much of the internet reacted with a collective feeling of joy that a game designed around what the rest of the sports world calls cheating failed to make any meaningful difference. Instagram exploded with pictures of the swimmer James Magnussen failing to set a new world record, even though he was, quote, juiced to the gills and wearing an illegal suit. It turned out that the steroid stack added so much muscle to his frame that he actually sank a little during the race. And the runners, they were even worse.
If you compare the 100-meter results to the Texas High School State Championship, the Texas High School State Championship had better results.
In this video, I'm going to discuss the fate of the enhanced games, not only its spectacular failure at athletic excellence, but also what it means for the worldwide market of biohacking and the trillion-dollar market for wellness grifting. First, let's talk about how these games actually came into existence. The $370 million investment came primarily from Peter Thiel, the PayPal founder, the Palantir scion, the techno-fascist, and friend of the channel. It also included Christian Angermayer, the German billionaire who's made a fortune in psychedelics and longevity startups, Balaji Srinivasan, the former CTO of Coinbase, and one more person who you probably know, the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, who backed the games with a cash investment from his fund, 1789 Capital. This is not a group of people who got together because they love track and field. This is a group of people who saw an opportunity in getting in on the trillion-dollar supplement and testosterone business while they still could. The plan, and I want to be clear about it because it's kind of brilliant in a deeply cynical way, the plan was to use the enhanced games as a loss leader. They would spend this $370 million fortune on a spectacle to get the world's attention, and then funnel all of that attention into supplements and peptides and testosterone therapy pipelines that are rapidly gaining market share against ordinary doctor-backed healthcare. And it was working. In the 2-year lead up to the games, coverage was everywhere, from Wired and NPR and the New York Times. Everyone wanted to talk about the enhanced games.
The lights, the booming music, the cheering crowds, and the huge billboards.
It's being called the Olympics on steroids.
Here's how one of my fellow YouTubers, a channel called Athletic Interest, put it.
Unlike the Olympics, which rely on broadcasting rights and sponsorships, the enhanced games have no big sponsors and plan to stream for free on YouTube. Still, before a single race was won, the enhanced games were valued at $1.2 billion. So, how do they make money? The sports event isn't the product. The sports event is the ad. In March 2026, right as the games were approaching, Enhanced launched its consumer platform, selling supplements and testosterone therapy.
That's right. The sports event is the ad. That's the whole game right there. And it's precisely why the Enhanced team brought in Brian Johnson, a wellness vampire with his own supplement line, to commentate on the event. His job was to tout a golden age of peptides, longevity protocols, and concierge medicine to people who are willing to spend big. But when the games didn't go as planned, his job was then to explain to the audience why these doped up athletes only managed to break a single record in the event. And boy, did he ever try.
And I think a lot of people have come into today expecting world records to drop. Now, to put that into context, these athletes training camp for 4 months. They were able to enhance for 2 months. This is a baby step into the new world to say we're going to allow these performance-enhancing drugs under a protocol. So I don't think it's not a defeat.
Which is a little funny, because the theme of this year's Enhanced Games was, quote, one more shot.
And so it does feel like one last shot.
And Johnson is telling you that the Enhanced Games should still get one more shot after they bombed on the field this year. And let me remind you, these athletes had unlimited access to performance-enhancing drugs, expert medical supervision, and millions of dollars in backing.
A new survey of most of the athletes, 91% used testosterone, 79% used human growth hormone, and 29% used anabolic steroids.
And even then, they couldn't beat Texas high schoolers. But sure, Brian, it's not a defeat. This is the response you get when the commentator has a financial stake in maintaining a narrative that enhancement works, that biohacking delivers, and that you're just one protocol away from superhuman performance yourself. Because if the reality was that the Enhanced Games actually proved instead that doping doesn't actually supplant training and genetics, or worse, that it can make you perform below what you've done in your past, then what does that say about Brian Johnson's own supplement line? About the people who pay him $1 million a year for personal coaching and the entire Griftoverse of wellness influencers and Instagram famous biohackers? If you've been following this channel, then you probably already know that we are in the golden age of Grift, where marketing outperforms settled science every single time. And the administration, including the president's own fund that backed the Enhanced Games, is trying to find ways to deregulate healthcare so they can capture the profits themselves, which is weirdly also the main plot of Mike Judge's Idiocracy.
Rondo the Thirst Mutilator had come to replace water virtually everywhere. Water, the basic component of all life, had been deemed a threat to Brondo's profit margin. The solution came during the budget crisis of 2330, when the Brondo Corporation simply bought the FDA and the FCC, enabling them to say, do, and sell anything they wanted.
So I can't even tell you how many times I've watched that movie and found how surprisingly accurate it has been. Right now, the president is planning a UFC match on the lawn of the White House, which is, I think, the conclusion of Idiocracy. Maybe I should do a video just on that film on this channel. Tell me what you think down in the comments. Here's what you need to understand about the largely unregulated supplement, hormone, and peptide businesses. Biohackers and wellness grifters are selling the belief that supplement stacks and research chemicals can leapfrog established science. That you don't need to wait for clinical trials or peer review or any of that boring stuff. You can just experiment on yourself. Be your own lab rat in the race towards longevity, and increasingly, this ideology of non-science and hype is really meant to supplant ordinary medicine. It's the idea that you can buy your way to increased health. I mean, the front page of the Enhanced Games is a great example. It advertises no fewer than 4 trendy anti-aging supplements. These are the kind of add-on interventions that you might see endorsed by a Peter Attia or Andrew Huberman or pretty much any other biohacking influencer with a podcast. And while they might have a few mechanistic studies that show impressive results in a few lab rats, they don't really have any robust human data to back them up. If they did, they would be a drug and not a supplement. But that doesn't matter in this world. What matters is the story, the promise, the dream. The Enhanced Games founders believed that if they could prove that their enhanced athletes would break a whole slate of world records, then it would open up doors to their telehealth business and capture the market for self-experimenters. It would be validation. Anecdotes that pretended to be scientific legitimacy. It would be the thing that would let them say, see? Enhancement works. Now go buy our products. Here's Steve Magnus again.
Underneath most of the longevity stuff that we know of, the biohacking stuff, it looks good. It sounds good. You tell people, hey, I'm going to give you this thing that enhances, your mitochondria or testosterone or strength pathway or mTOR pathway, whatever fancy jargon you want to use. But underneath it, it doesn't do much. And I think even more in the biohacking supplement longevity world, we know in sports steroids work. They make a little bit of a difference, but as you saw in the enhanced games, not that much, especially if you don't have good coaching and like long-term hard work ethic underneath it and some talent.
That's the whole thing right there. It looks good, it sounds good, and anyone who dives into this world can arm themselves with impressive terminology like mitochondria and mTOR pathways and testosterone optimization that all sound very scientific and cutting edge. But underneath it, well, that's all just mostly big words that don't actually do much, which is why it is so satisfying that their proof of concept failed in the most public and embarrassing way possible. Equally gratifying is how much money it all lost. When the enhanced games went public in August 2025, it skyrocketed to over $1 billion valuation almost immediately. But then when the results came in, share prices tumbled from $10 to just $2.35, instantly wiping out $800 million in capitalization. $800 million. This is, of course, no surprise. Whatever you want to say about financial markets, and I have plenty to say about financial markets, they're reasonably good at spotting a catastrophe in the making and bugging out when the hype cycle finally collapses. The thing that actually makes people fit, healthy, and long-lived, well, they're usually not profitable in and of themselves. Getting good sleep and having a community and regular exercise, rational nutrition, those are proven in countless studies. So are public health interventions funded by taxpayer dollars, like clean water and sanitation and, yeah, I said it, vaccines. But you can't sell those with the same margins that you can with proprietary stacks, recurring subscriptions, and other things that directly profit wellness influencers. None of that is as sexy as the promise of radical enhancement through chemistry. But in defense of the people behind the enhanced games, they really did put their money where their mouth is. I mean, they really believe that enhancement, that taking all of these performance-enhancing drugs would work. And heck, as an athletic outsider, I always thought that cheating would make you, perform better in the test. It made sense. And there was this documentary that came out, I think in 2008, called Bigger, Faster, Stronger, which did posit the idea that you could do something like the enhanced games, where you would juice up all of the athletes for weightlifting competitions and the like, and actually get some interesting results about what actual peak human performance would look like at the cost potentially of the people's health.
It's human nature. People cheat at everything. Why am I the bad guy?
Except that what the enhanced games proved was that the people who took enhanced protocols actually performed worse than top natural athletes. Not just a little worse, substantially worse.
If you look at these athletes, it's not only that on average they were about a half second slower than their personal best, which in a 100-meter dash, a half second is a lifetime. It's that they were slower than not only their most recent performance, but slower than when they were in high school.
Even more satisfying, clean athletes cleaned their clock and bragged about it afterwards.
Man, they gotta do better than that. Get on that shit a little bit more and go a little harder some more.
I mean, how do you add steroids and peptides and God knows what else and get worse? This should be a warning to anyone who thinks that they can get similar results from the biohackers and influencers of the world. If unlimited enhancement doesn't work for elite athletes with full-on scientific supervision, then what makes you think it's going to work for you? Now, of course, there are some people out there who have a different take on what happened in the games, and I want to give a little space to a contrarian argument that I've seen all over the internet, an argument that seems to have risen from the ashes of the failed athletic dreams of the enhanced games, and it goes like this. Maybe the only thing that the enhanced games actually proved is that real Olympic athletes are just better at cheating than the people who are allowed to do it openly at the games. I mean, maybe the whole system is so thoroughly corrupt, and thus the enhanced games are somehow, more honest. They're more transparent about what's really happening, and the only reason that the enhanced athletes didn't break records is that the actual Olympians have better dope. Now, I put this question directly to Steve Magnus because I wanted to hear how someone who has actually worked with elite athletes on the inside and has exposed hidden doping scandals in the past would respond. Here's what he said.
Totally wrong. I mean, that's the wrong takeaway.
He brought up the difference in times between the enhanced athletes and their own high school times.
Now, I get it. We have cynics here, but most high school, especially in track and field, a sport where, let's be honest, there's not much money, Most high school kids are not doping.
Which is to say that while there are certainly Olympians who have been caught juicing, the enhanced games prove that in most cases, these athletes couldn't even improve on themselves. This isn't to say that enhancement can't work, but that from what we've seen, what it offers you is really only a tiny little edge, not a revolution unto itself. It doesn't make you superhuman. It doesn't break world records. So for the rest of us, the enhanced games, its failure, well, it's actually sort of a gift. It's a reminder that the boring advice that we all know in our hearts is true works. Shortcuts, they don't work. Your body is not a problem to be solved with the right combination of purchases. And sometimes the most radical thing you can do is just train a little harder, like Frank Hurley said.
Man, they gotta do better than that.
Thanks so much for watching this video. If you haven't seen my notes about it, I wanted to let you know that I've started up a Discord server where I talk about all sorts of investigative journalism things that I am working on, and I give you sneak peeks into upcoming videos and ask for a hand when I get in over my head. Right now I have 6 videos in the works, and I'm dropping all kinds of hints into the chat over there. I'd love to see you in that chaos of Discord. There's a link in the description for the free area, and if you happen to be a premium member of my Substacks or my Patreon or even here on YouTube, there's also a link to my super secret area on Discord where, I actually have more information and I'm available on voice chat and things like that. So, thank you for keeping me alive here on YouTube. I am just so lucky to do this job. Until next time, from Foxtopus Inc. in Denver, Colorado, this was Scott Carney Investigates. Thank you so much to my supporters here on Patreon and on Substack and even on YouTube who make this work possible. It means the world to me that you're here. And if you want to get your name on the honor roll, all you need to do is sign up at the links down below. From Foxtopus Inc. in Denver, Colorado, this was Scott Carney Investigates.